Welcome to New York's number 2 sports show. The Rangers lose to the Islanders by a final score of 4-2. Rangers get off to a slow start. Islanders were the more desperate team in the first period, jump out to a 3-0 lead. The Rangers were definitely the better team in the second and third period. They were able to make it 3-2. They get a couple power play goals in the second to cut the lead, the deficit to 1 going to the third. And the Rangers really controlled play in the third period, but just could not get one by Semyon Varlamov, who is now the current Islander starter. He has been better than Sorokin lately. And Varlamov, I think I'd mentioned this in the previous episode, that Varlamov has done well versus the Rangers, especially as an Islander. So he looked pretty good. Igor was under siege in the first period. It really could have been worse than just 3 goals. The Islanders could have had a lot more. There was a lot going on. Peter Laviolette was, as angry as I've seen him after a game, post-game presser. He was upset with a couple of plays. One I agree with him on, another one not as much. He was really upset about an Adam Pelech shoulder to Mika Zibanejad. So luckily the Rangers seem to have come out of this game healthy, and that's very important, maybe more so than anything. And there was some instances where Chris Kreider left the game for a little bit. He took a slap shot. I'm not sure where it hit him exactly, but Zibanejad took a slap shot and hit Kreider. So he would go to the locker room, but would return. He would score a power play goal as well. Ryan Lindgren seemed like he kind of a bit of a leg issue, and with him, it's like not surprising to see, but he would return. And then Zibanejad, he would get hurt towards the end of the third, and by the end, he didn't come back on the ice, but you would see him back on the bench. So I think he's okay. But what happens is Zibanejad, it didn't seem like he was really aware of where Adam Pelech was, and he goes into him pretty hard, and he was down, and you worry about a potential head injury. But the fact that Laviolette was so upset, it makes me question, maybe I'm not seeing something properly, because to me, it didn't seem like Pelech did it intentionally. Maybe he somehow saw Mika in the corner of his eye and just kind of chose to stand there. But based on Pelech's reaction, it didn't seem intentional, but Laviolette was red hot over that. Luckily, it seems like Mika will be okay. He missed, I guess, however, I don't remember how much time was left at that point. Somewhere in the 5 to 10 minute, I guess it was probably closer to 10 minutes left in the game when that happens. And then at the end, probably 15 to 20 seconds remaining, it's 6-on-5 for the Rangers, and Noah Dobson just crushes just a cross check to the back of Vincent Trocheck, goes right into the boards, and they just didn't call it. Kelly Sutherland, I think, was the ref, just didn't blow the whistle. I don't know why. The Rangers, and you hate to, I don't think these things happen, but sometimes they do. The Rangers were 2 for 3 in the power play, 3 penalties in the second period, which all were deserved. As far as, one was a delay of game, and the other ones were just pretty blatant. But they kind of just didn't want to blow the whistle. There was one penalty in the third on Goodrow, which, we'll talk about that one. But yeah, so Laviolette was upset. Like, I don't think that was necessarily the difference between winning and losing. It's just, I think he's just more upset about, just, as he called it, like the vicious nature of what happened. And so that's going to lead to some interesting, I think, potential fireworks. It's going to be a high-spirited game on Saturday at the Garden. And really, a big reason for that is the result of this game. The fact that the Rangers lost just is going to mean that the Rangers are going to have a lot on the line. More so, if they had won this game, they would have been very close to kind of wrapping everything up. Not the case now. But yeah, disappointing, like the slow start. That's been a bit of a theme. And again, for a team that has the most points in the NHL by 1 point on Dallas, and we'll talk about the standings along the way. But the Rangers, as I've said, they do trail a lot, and they're very good at coming back. Like in this game, they were kind of on their way to doing so. Just, it was just, I guess the execution just didn't really come through, but impressive. Down 3-0, they didn't give up. This game was, I guess, somewhat similar to the Stadium Series game. Not as much the game at Madison Square Garden. This was a lot more similar to the game at MetLife. And yeah, like the Islanders just jump out to that good start. I mean, the Islanders really dominated the first period offensively. It was tough. As far as for the roster, they went back to the regular lineup. In other words, Jack Roslovic returned to the lineup. Matt Rempe did not play. He was healthy scratch, and Eric Gustafson was back in for Zach Jones. So thoughts on that? I didn't have I'm fine with the fact they did that. Like I've said, Jack Roslovic has been disappointing. I feel like I've been kind of towing the line of kind of like trying to defend him. He hasn't really been very good. I will give him, I guess there is some credit to be had. He did draw a penalty that led to the first Ranger goal. So he has had a knack for that. But this lineup will operate at its best if Roslovic is on that line with Kreider and Zibanejad. It's been a black hole, that right wing side. And blame goes to kind of, again, Mika and Kreider, and as well as the play. I mean, it's a little twofold, and the player involved. I know there's going to be a lot of fans that are upset that Matt Rempe didn't play. And I can't say I honestly totally would blame that segment of the fan base because it is a Ranger Islander game. So I get it. I do get it. And we will see him again, whether that be versus the Flyers or maybe even more likely versus the Islanders on Saturday. But they went to kind of their A lineup, if you will. So Gustafson comes back in, and it was a bit of a struggle for Gustafson, especially in the first period. So I think, look, the idea of Zach Jones, let's just make it 1-for-1, because there's different scenarios, obviously. Like, Trouba takes a bad penalty in this game, and I've been, hard on him, but I'll keep him out of this conversation, because the fact of the matter is he will not be a healthy scratch, regardless of how bad he were to perform. And the idea of Zach Jones replacing Eric Gustafson at some point in the playoffs is not as far-fetched as maybe once thought. Now, game one, it's going to be Gustafson. Even if Gustafson sucks the rest of the way and Jones is incredible, I still think it'll be Gustafson. But if somehow that plays itself, where that continues, Jones, I think, has opened up enough eyes where maybe that's a thing. But we'll put that on the back burner. And as far as, I think Rempe's path to the lineup is probably a little bit easier in some ways than Jones if you're to stick with the 12 forward, 6 defensemen. But anyway, Rangers Islanders, really, really big game for the Islanders. You knew, and that's kind of what did play itself out. I even though, to be fair, the Rangers' first periods have been lacking compared to their other periods. The third period is the Rangers' best. The Rangers kind of get better as the game goes on. And you'd rather that than the opposite, which the Islanders, they're the opposite. Islanders start out well and then kind of gradually decline as the game wears on, and that did happen here. But the Islanders were able to just hang on. That's what it was. They hung on, and it was a big win for the Islanders. They find themselves now in third place in the Metropolitan Division. And could the Rangers play the Islanders in the first round? That is still possible. I wouldn't call it likely, because I still believe the Rangers will hold off. The Islanders could drop to that number 2 wildcard spot. That's still possible. There are a lot of variables in play, but I wouldn't say it's overly likely that we see them meet up in the first round. But let's talk about this game, and then we'll get into some out-of-town scoreboard standing stuff. But yeah, Islanders outshot the Rangers 17-11 in the first, 17 shots, whereas the rest of the game, the Islanders had a combined 12. They were the better team. Just from puck drop. That's just what it was. And the Rangers, it's disappointing that the Rangers couldn't match the intensity. I'm not surprised for a number of reasons, but it's disappointing that it didn't happen. So at 1:25, it starts out where Matt Barzal is awarded a penalty shot. So kind of a bad play, a turnover by Panarin. It leads to Adam Fox having to hook Barzal. I thought Adam Fox had a great game. Even though he only gets an assist, but I thought, or not even actually. Sorry, Fox doesn't even end up on this. Oh no, what am I talking about? Fox had a goal. Fox had a power play goal, but I thought Fox was really good. It's just you wish you could play him an infinite amount. He is, even though he's not big in stature, he really, I think his defensive game is underrated almost, because they have Lindgren and Trouba as the main penalty kill duo, and that would be the duo that would be on at the end of games. I don't really agree with that. But anyway, Barzal is stopped by Igor on the penalty shot. So I'm thinking at that point, all right, maybe this kind of just turns things around. A bad start for the Rangers. It didn't. It really didn't. But Igor, I think, is now 4 for 4 in terms of save success in penalty shots in his career. So Islanders kept on going, and at 4:12, they would score. Mike Riley scores a 6th goal from Bo Horvat. So not a great job by Ryan Lindgren here, and it goes off of Lindgren and in. It was a shot by Riley. Lindgren was kind of late to react, and you could see Horvat was open. And this is the second own goal by Lindgren in recent. I think he had one against Colorado. So as much as I admire Ryan Lindgren's game and what he does, it's been there's been a couple of things with Lindgren that's been a little bit disappointing. That right there is one of them, and the Islanders take a 1-0 lead. Then at 11:47, the Islanders score again. Bo Horvat, his 33rd goal of the season from Dobson and Barzal. Horvat's been a really good acquisition from Vancouver, a much-needed piece for this current Islander group, and that makes it 2-0 right there. And Horvat, I guess Cizikas was also in the area, but I guess it didn't deflect off of him. But Horvat kind of beats, I think it was kind of Braden Schneider was around there, beats him to the spot. Igor had on these goals, Igor's not at fault at all. He really kept the Rangers sadly in the game in the first. And then at 13:38, Islanders score again. Palmieri is 27th goal of the season from Nelson and Dobson. And this is a play where just really weak coverage by the Rangers. Forwards' responsibilities kind of across the board here. Like, I think the Wenberg line was on for one of the goals. That the fourth line, I know like Brodzinski was on. So, but Erik Gustafsson's just watching. He's standing right near the crease. That's where he's got to be tougher, and that's where it's like as much as he's bigger than Zach Jones, but like Gustafsson is not the strongest. His game is more offensive, and he's good at it. I mean, really, for a third pair guy, he's good. But I think that Gustafsson, he had a rough first period, and I know he didn't play last game, and it'll be interesting to see what they do lineup wise in the remaining 3 games as far as who the healthy scratches are. But yeah, Palmieri makes it 3-0, and they really could have scored more. At 14:30, Trouba is called for tripping Casey Cizikas. Just not a good job by Trouba here, where it's an easy play to keep it in at the blue line. He fumbles it, kind of a klutzy situation. We see that from Trouba a lot, and then he has to trip Cizikas. So what happens is, and I remember this in the Lightning series in 2022, where Trouba is forced to either take a penalty based on his own fuck up, or it leads to an odd man rush the other way, and you're just holding your breath. So that you can't have that happen. Luckily, though, Rangers penalty kill does the job. The Rangers special teams were very good in this game. Almost perfect, actually. They killed off both Islander power plays, and they were 2 for 3 on their own power plays. So it's 3-0. And, as I mentioned earlier, Kreider, he would leave the game for a bit, and that was a little bit scary, but he ended up being okay. He took a hard slap shot from Zibanejad and just kind of friendly fire. But he was all right. Second period comes around. Rangers were a much better team. It was a night and day difference the rest of the way. It was, they've done this, and you don't want to but here's the lesson learned, or hopefully learned. You don't want to put yourself in that hole. 3-0 is just a little bit too much, and it bit them in this game. So at 6:41, Mike Reilly interferes with Roslovic, and the Rangers score on the power play. And we've seen it a lot lately. It's Kreider on the tip-in from a shot by Panarin. So Kreider, 39th goal of the season from Panarin. So Panarin has 70 assists, and then Zibanejad has the other assist. So Kreider 1 goal away from 40. You figure he'll probably get there with 3 games to go, assuming he plays all 3 of those games. Good chance that Chris Kreider reaches the 40-goal mark. So, and almost half of them are on the power play. His customary role, he's as good as anyone in the league on the power play. It's where it's where he makes his money. So it's 3-1 there. Then 11:16, Bortuzzo trips Lafreniere. This was not a great power by the Rangers in the fact that Varlamov lost his stick, and the Rangers just were passing it around. You can't do that. You got to put it on net, especially when he doesn't have a stick. But at 13:48, not too long after that expired, Noah Dobson's called for a delay game, and the Rangers do score on this power play. It's Adam Fox, his 16th goal of the season from Kreider and Trocheck. So 2 points for Kreider. Fox with the goal, just a good screen by Kreider. And maybe Trocheck might have been in the mix there too. But Fox just sees the screen and risks it where Varlamov couldn't stop it. Makes it 3-2. And the Rangers had some more chances as well. There was some fisticuffs towards the end of the second period involving, I think, Will Cooley, Bo Horvat, a few other guys. I think Fox and Pelech were going at it. But we go to the third 3-2 game. And that was kind of what it was in that Stadium Series game. Although in that one, the Islanders had an early goal in the third, and the Rangers still came back from down too late. But in the third, the Islanders didn't have a shot on goal until maybe 6 or 7 minutes left in the third period. It was total zone time domination by the Rangers, but they just could not get one by Varlamov. And eventually, and there was a lot of good chances from really most of the lines, honestly. But in the third, I can't remember how much time was left. Mika Zibanejad seemed like he was kind of unaware of the fact that Adam Pelech was where he was. And again, Laviolette was really, really angry. So we'll leave it up for debate, but I don't think that it was intentional, but Mika was down. And he wouldn't return to the game. He would return to the bench, but he wouldn't come back in. So that hurts the team. And then to make matters worse, Barclay Goodrow is called for slashing Matt Martin at 12:26. So what happens is Goodrow's stick breaks. And at this point, the Rangers have all the momentum, all of it. And so it hurt that, it's tough because Goodrow's stick breaking, I think, adds more attention to the play. I still wish he hadn't done that. And the Rangers kill it off. But it did kind of take away from what the Rangers were doing. And so then, it's back to 5-on-5. And the Rangers had opportunities. Eventually, they pulled the goalie, 6-on-5. And there were chances there too. But with 15 or 20 seconds left, Noah Dobson with a really, really hard cross-check to the back of Vincent Trocheck. And I thought they were going to call that when I did. And they didn't. They did not. And it leads to an empty net goal from that. Anders Lee, 20th goal of the season from Pajot and Engvall with 6 seconds left. And Trocheck was absolutely livid. He gets a misconduct. He was right in the face of Sutherland. But you like the passion. I like the fact it sucks that the Rangers just kind of showed up late to this game. I don't like that. But the fact that Laviolette and Trocheck and all of them, they were fired up. I like to see that in a game that there was a lot of importance, but it was way, way, way more important for the Islanders. And still, they were still very plugged in and into it. But Rangers lose. So let's discuss the standings. Let's discuss the future game that they have here. Future games, actually. But Rangers now, the 3 teams to concern yourself with for different reasons are Dallas, Carolina, and Boston. That's really where it's at. And the Rangers are 1 point ahead of Dallas, with both teams have 3 games left. I don't know that they necessarily will hold Dallas off. And if they don't win the President's Trophy, I've said all along, I'm okay with that. Would I like to? Yeah, for sure. I would root for that. But if that doesn't happen, so be it. But they are 1 point out of the Dallas Stars. Dallas has 3 remaining home games left, and the schedule for them is relatively easy. As is for the Rangers, though. They have 3. It's actually pretty similar schedules. It's 3 home games left for the Rangers, and their opponents aren't overly difficult either. So we'll see where that goes. But what was a good result tonight was Carolina played Boston, and Carolina beats Boston in regulation. That, to me, was the ideal result. So right now, the Rangers are 3 points ahead of Carolina for the division and 3 points ahead of Boston as well, in both cases for the conference. And that's where you want to finish in first. Because if you finish in first, right now, if the season was over, you'd play Washington. As compared to if Boston passes the Rangers, then you're playing Tampa. So I continue to say how important that is. So 3 points ahead of Carolina and Boston, and all teams have 3 games left. So basically, in short, the Rangers have important games remaining. Certainly this Philly game, the Flyers are the next opponent. And the Flyers story is this. They are on an 8-game losing streak. They are in complete free fall. They are not out of the playoff race. They are still there. I'd be stunned if they get in. I'd be totally stunned. They lost 9-3 tonight to Montreal. They have been giving up goals like crazy. Their goaltending is not good. It's all kind of falling apart for Tortorella and the Flyers. But that said, they are there. They're only 2 points out of a playoff spot, and they actually play Washington head on for their last game of the season. So they are mathematically very much alive. And so you're going to get a Flyer team that, and maybe they're running out of gas. I guess what I'm trying to say is the Rangers, based on just pure skill and talent, should find a way to not play their best game and beat Philly. But to say that on the one hand, Philly, it's kind of falling away from them. And so it works one of 2 ways. Either they're kind of just checking out, or they're still going to be very, very hungry for a team that's lost 8 in a row and still in the mix. So that's at Madison Square Garden. The Rangers have recently, they beat the Flyers in a couple of close games. The one in Philly, that was like the Matt Rempe game where they won 2-1, and Philly was better at that point. Then the last one was when Philly began this losing streak. I think it was game 2 of this current 8-game losing streak, and the Rangers won 6-5 in, overtime. It was a pretty sloppy game on both ends that the Rangers found a way to win. We'll see who's in net for that one. I guess there's a chance that Jonathan Quick plays in that one. We'll see. I think that's possible. And what will the lineup be? Like, will they kind of do what they did against Montreal and kind of healthy scratch a couple of different players? I don't know. But what I do know is that the Rangers, it's still all systems go based on the fact the Rangers lost this game. And, it'd be hard not to look ahead to that Islander game after the Flyer one as well. I think that one could be very, very interesting for sure. So Rangers lose, get off to a really slow start. They almost come back, but it falls short. They lose to the Islanders by a score of 4-2.